After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
It's the final Elimination Wednesday for the Outlaws Sim Series this season. Last time out, Scott Bailey narrowly edged teammate Jonathan Jennings in a photo finish in Atlanta for his first career victory and, more importantly, a berth into the championship four. Tonight, 250 laps at this historic 5/8 mile will decide the final 3 spots to the dance in Richmond. Good evening, all, and welcome to the virtual North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Andrew Cardinale IV joins me alongside for the call and the production this evening. And Andrew, a grueling penultimate race with the highest of stakes at one of the most difficult short tracks on the schedule is upon us. These drivers are anxious. We are anxious, and it's going to be a fun night.
It is going to be a fun night, Emerson. We're at Wilkes County here, North Wilkesboro Speedway. First time on the channel in a long time, and as you can see, our friends over at BAM Racing Videos were kind enough to lend us some B-roll from this racetrack in the real world, admittedly before the SMI renovations took place. It looks a little nicer now, but it's going to look even nicer for May for the NASCAR All-Star Race and the Cars Solid Rock Carriers Tour. But this place is just so special. There's always so much history packed into North Wilkesboro, and there's more than just Wilkesboro, of course. There are more tracks like this, but this is the one that we've been kind of focused on in racing these last few years, and you can see the difference between what it looks like here in the B-roll from BAM Racing Videos a couple of years ago to what it looks like in the sim. Now, in the sim, it is modeled to be right around that 1987 point. That's kind of what NASCAR, or not NASCAR, iRacing and Dale Jr. kind of went for with this restoration of the track in sim, and it looks fantastic. It really does look like art.
Absolutely. It really is one of a kind, right? We don't really have this on the sim. This was kind of the first, of its kind, of a really, of iRacing having an older track than itself on the service. And I know, all the drivers lit up, real life drivers as well, because this came out during 2020 when all the drivers were able to get on iRacing as well. There's so much hype about it, and we're having it here. We're making it one of the most important races on the season, and it's fantastic. It's not a very even shaped oval. It's very bumpy. You take turns 1 and 2 much differently than you take turns 3 and 4. They straightaways, they're kind of straight, kinda. You're going to be fighting with the wheel all the way around, and don't even get me started on pit entry. We might see a car or two end up in that pit attenuator at pit entry.
And this is still the 1987 version, so you have the short pit road, not the longer pit road that wraps around turns 3 and 4. Also of note, as you mentioned, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, very different from each other. The ends of the racetrack are on different sides of, or I guess different heights on the hill. Turn 1 and 2 are downhill on entry, uphill on exit, while 3 and 4 are uphill on entry and downhill on exit. So each corner here, very, very challenging. There's nothing you can really do to get into a good rhythm. You've just got to try and hang on for dear life. Let's talk about standings coming into this, the final elimination race. As Emerson mentioned, Scott Bailey got that win in Atlanta. He is sitting pretty, but he is the only, well, not the only one now, but he's the only one that is completely locked in with a win. But Jonathan Jennings, by math, with the amount of drivers we have here tonight, doesn't have to worry. So really it comes down to the guys in 3rd and 4th and where they shake out in case somebody from 5th on down wins tonight. That's kind of what we're looking at. And really, with the amount of cars here, it's going to take a lot even for Fitzpatrick to point his way in. Schumacher, certainly it's going to take a whole lot more. So it's really a matter of one of those 4 drivers in red having to win tonight, and where either Max Service or Seth Berger works out, depending on who's on top.
Absolutely, Andrew. And kind of already been getting that vibe. Jacob Reeves even told me that he's not really interested in a pre-race interview today because he's focused on the task at hand. He is in a must-win situation effectively. For what it's worth, we could even say Max Service and Seth Berger are safe, but if Seth Fitzpatrick wins, then it is going to be an intense battle between those two teammates, because it is only a 6-point gap between them. And if we can remember last time out at a short track, I'll say USA, which was earlier in the playoff run, Max had an abysmal outing, and Seth Berger had one of his best short track outings. So that 6-point gap could flip around today as well. And of course, that really only matters if we have somebody in that bottom 4 win. And I know all 4 of those drivers in the bottom 4, they are very much focused at the task at hand to get it done tonight.
Yeah, whether you're Fitzpatrick, Schumacher, Stutzman, Reeves, you realistically have to win. That said, Emerson, if we see either Max Service or Seth Berger for some reason out of this race before the end of stage 1, I think it opens the door back up, and then you're really looking at Fitzpatrick and Schumacher, which one of those two is able to capitalize, because if Max Service and Seth Berger don't take stage points, if either one of them miss stage points tonight, they could easily end up out of this race, or out of these playoffs. That is 10 points per stage. It's up for grabs, and it goes down from there, 9, 8, 7, 6, and so on. So we could be looking at a situation where one of those two could still be eliminated on points. It's just not very likely. Let's take a look at how we've gotten here so far this season. 36 races. It's a long one, a long haul certainly, and here we are, race 35, finally, the last race of the round of 3.
It's crazy, Andrew, how many times we've seen this graphic this season, at how many different points throughout the year. This really has kind of been my story of 2022, being able to cover every single one of these races. And I'm glad you've been able to join me here for the back half of the playoffs. And I had Ed and Devin Zimmerman earlier this season as well. It's been a crazy schedule. Pretty much a gauntlet of different racetracks. We've hit them all. Super Speedway to start the season, a roadie, intermediates, of all various lengths. We got a couple dirt tracks on there. We have had everything, and we're closing this bad boy out with 2 very tough and then 2 very different short tracks. Because North Wilkesboro, very bumpy. Richmond, there's some bumps, but nowhere near to the extent of what we'll have tonight here at North Wilkesboro.
So we're getting ready finally to go racing and find out exactly who goes on to the final race of the season with a chance to win this championship. 13 minutes left in practice. Let's see how they're shaking out so far. With Jonathan Jennings, no surprise, at the top of the board. Granted, Emerson, these drivers, they're aware of something that happened at Martinsville a few weeks ago, and they have been trying it. And we were kind of talking about it before the broadcast. That Ross Chastain move from Martinsville, it's technically doable. You're just not going to make the next corner very quickly, and certainly the corner after that, the third corner you try to do that, it's just not going to work the way you want it to. So you've really got one chance to make it happen in 3 and 4, coming to the checkers, and that's about it. But they have tried it, at least in practice, so we've learned a little bit about what it might take.
Yeah, we've seen now the top 4 times in practice. Those drivers have given it a go. They've ran their best lap in 1 and 2. Turns 3 and 4, they put that bad boy right up against the outside wall, and they don't lift. And Balliet there in second, Malenko, he told me he forgot to shift on his lap. I'd imagine Jennings probably had it in the right gear to kind of keep the speed up all the way around through the corner as best as he can. We're looking at, if you're looking for a legitimate time without any wall ride, because, well, let's be real, if you're going to wall ride, it's going to be a last lap thing. It's there in 5th place with Max Service. And Max, he has been hard at work on his set, and of course with racing, getting a good dose of that setup as well. So there's a lot of work that's been put in on the Swift Racing side. I've been privy to know that information. I'd imagine the same is being done on the Last Chance side. And again, we're gonna have some insane battles tonight. Seth Fitzpatrick, who has been pretty good on the short tracks this season, has gathered himself a few wins on the short tracks this season, only second to Jonathan Jennings in terms of that kind of this kind of track type. And Fitzpatrick, effectively, yes, I think he feels himself he's in a must-win situation. With there only being 14 cars in the field so far, yes, the math is there for him to point his way. And if he were to win the first 2 stages and say Seth were to get no stage points, and they'd be tied entering stage 3. But I think he is taking this as a must-win. He's a little lower on the practice charts than I would imagine, even factoring in if 5th place would be the 1st place. And we'll just have to see what Fitzpatrick has hiding. He is one that has good long runs most of the time. There's Adrian Schumacher, someone who's excelled very greatly on road courses. This is very much a driver's track. This could be up Schumacher's wheelhouse, and he's up there 7th in practice charts, and we'll say effectively 3rd.
Well, you say effectively 3rd, but I think even the guys that have tried the wall would be faster than a lot of these drivers. Jennings and Malenko certainly. Powell and Cortez, it's kind of a toss-up. So I think those guys would still be up there. And I think effectively Schumacher is still 7th in the standings, at least 7th in the practice chart, the speed charts. So I think that's reason for concern, potentially, for car 82. These guys have got to get a little bit faster. We're talking about Schumacher and Fitzpatrick both.
Being cued in, a Hail Melon, as Adam has quoted it here, will be resulting in a DQ. So,
wow.
Provo's out.
There you go. Just as we thought it might be a strategy that you could do, maybe, to get some points. There you go. And it has been outlawed here on the Outlaws Sim Series. Like that one?
Ah, okay. I like that.
Here's Jeremiah Stutzman. Big problems at Homestead a few weeks ago to begin this round of the playoffs, but not so bad last week. I think it was a good performance overall. Just he needed more points and realistically needed to win, and he still needs to win here this evening. Comes in tonight, 39 points behind the cutoff, and yeah, that's very much must-win territory.
Yeah, Jeremiah Stutzman, who found his way in the championship for last season, looking like it's going to be a very difficult way if he's going to make his way back into the championship for this season. And last time out at Atlanta, it was a very tough race. He fared pretty well in the first stage. Of course, got caught up in the incident that kind of sidelined him there in the second stage. Actually, now that I think about it, at the first stage as well, he fared well until right at the end of the stage where he fell towards the back of the top 10. So it was kind of just the worst of luck for Jeremiah Stutzman these first two races. Of course, looking for the biggest turnaround of the season in terms of that luck, and it could just happen.
Then you have this guy who finally has a race win under his belt, Emerson. In car 11, Scott Bailey won at Atlanta Motor Speedway 1 week ago, and I think definitely has to have the most confidence coming in here. He's the only driver that, well, I guess not the only driver, because yes, Jennings is technically locked in, but the only driver that I think can really ride into Richmond next week, so far at least, with that, hey, yeah, I want to race, and I'm rolling on into the championship 4. I'm going to fight for this championship. Yes, I know Jennings has been so good this season, so good enough to put himself in the finale already, but he doesn't have that win in the last few weeks. He hasn't won, actually, in the last few weeks. Almost won last week at Atlanta in that duel with Scott Bailey, but couldn't get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a little bit, it's been a minute for Jonathan Jennings this season, and he is, of course, looking to turn that around. If I can recall back here, he got it done he got it done at Darlington, but that was at this point over a month ago. And if he's going to be, and I really have no doubt that he is going to be a factor next week, but if he's going to go in there with a ton of confidence, he should get it done tonight to kind of send a message to the rest of his championship 4 that you're going to have to beat the best if you're going to take it from the best.
Meanwhile, Seth Berger enters this evening. Again, kind of a must-win. Well, not must-win, sorry. The opposite of a must-win. He's locked in almost with Max Service. And I think, again, whoever wins that battle between he and Max Service today goes on. I think that's just the way it's going to end up being. But that starts in stage 1, and he's got his work to do. I think 2 points, 2 positions realistically in each segment of this race, if you will, and he's got his way in. And I actually wonder what would be the tiebreaker, because 2 points in each segment, call it 2 points in stage 1, 2 points stage 2, 2 points stage 3. What is the tiebreaker then that would separate the 81 and the 77?
So it comes down to the real NASCAR tiebreakers. So we look at a best finish in the round. Then from then on, it would go to, I guess, top 5s, top 10s. But if we look at it, last week, Max gained that 4th place finish over Seth's 11th was huge. And the week before, Seth Berger got that 2nd place finish to Max's 3rd. So that right there would be it if Max doesn't end up taking 2nd tonight, if they end up tying, and it would be for the cut line.
So there you go. All Seth has to do is beat Max Service by 2 positions in each stage, and he's basically in. I mean, I think a lap lead would change that, certainly for Max Service, but otherwise,
right,
that's all he's got to do, and that's actually not a hard task, I think, to accomplish this evening. 2 positions sounds like a lot, maybe, and Max Service, sure, he's one of the better drivers in this series, but it's two positions on a short track. You can move a guy if you have to. Get him up out of the line. I know they're teammates, but when it comes down to it, do you want to fight for a championship or watch your teammate fight for a championship? You usually want to fight for a championship yourself.
Absolutely. Seth Berger looking to be the only driver in the Outlaws Sim Series to make it to 3 consecutive Championship 4 appearances. And at the moment is set to do so, but of course things could turn around. And this is the driver, your regular season champion right here. Driver who looked like he was going to be the favorite here in this playoff run, looking for a little bit of momentum. If he's going to be able to run for that championship next week. He's got 26 points at the cut line, but effectively 6 if somebody in that bottom 4 wins it. And of the 2 drivers in terms of confidence this week between Max and Seth, Seth has had virtually 0 confidence coming into today's race. And Max, well, he's put in all the work on the setup. He has a little bit more confidence coming into the races. And really, Max has kind of been the one hailing the torch when it comes to Swift racing on short tracks, which hasn't been a whole lot to talk about this season, with the exception of USA, where Seth was the one to bring it home near the on the podium there with 3rd. But since anything can change here, and this is one that we haven't had a race on here since season 1 of the Outlaws Sim Series, so it's been a while since these drivers have ran in a league setting here.
I think realistically, talking about guys on the outside, I don't know that Schumacher wins this race without some calamity at the end of the race. I just don't know that Schumacher, who's 7th on the practice charts right now, wins this race. And the same could be said for Seth Fitzpatrick, but he's in that last chance racing fold. He just seems better on short tracks. I'd say it's probably safe to say Swift Racing usually a little better on bigger tracks, intermediates. So can that maybe help Seth Fitzpatrick today? Can being even just in the same Discord, probably on the same setup as Jonathan Jennings, do you think that's what he needs?
If there's one person who's going to go toe-to-toe with Jonathan Jennings today, it's going to be that 2-car of Seth Fitzpatrick. He's done it before. He beat him at USA straight up. Seth Fitzpatrick, he's got a lot of momentum on this track type coming into today's race. I'm sure, the nerves are there, but I think overall this week he's kind of carried himself with a lot of confidence coming into today's race. I don't think the practice times are showing the whole story. I'm not saying he's sandbagging, but I just don't know what, if they've ran any laps in the session in qualifying trim, or if they're not running,
well, even last week we saw some of that. Last week we saw some of that where Swift Racing didn't quite have the short run, I believe it was, and they were there for the long run. And tires burned off really quickly. Now, it's not that hot in the sim, if I'm not mistaken. It is 124 degrees on track. It's not a cold day by any means, but 78 degrees in the air is not hot. So it's really just a matter of how much direct sunlight the track gets. The track admittedly has gotten quite a bit of direct sunlight, not many clouds around here, but still, it's not an overly scorcher. It's not a completely hot day. So are we going to see tires wear out that bad? It's hard to say. I mean, on road courses, these tires have been fantastic, but this is a different compound for a short track.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're, in the Outlaws Sim Series, because of the length of the races, it's only made sense to run 100% fuel loads. With that, you can run about 170 laps on fuel, but I guarantee you not one driver in this field will run 170 laps straight up, even if we go green to checkered today. Without a pit stop. I think at the longest you'll see maybe a 1-stop split at 125, but tires mean a lot. In this NextGen car, you really tend to burn up the right side tires very quickly here. They get very hot. The track temp is not going to do them any favors. I've heard a lot of talk about 2-stop, even potentially 3 stops, just because of how long that stint would be to try to 2-stop it. So we'll see what the plan is today. Of course, the downside of making those short pits or those multiple stop strategies is Rakasha comes out, you're trapped a couple laps down.
Looks like we have Terry Ono Crouch in the chat over on YouTube. Good to see him chiming in, and don't worry, he gave himself that own nickname earlier this week from the Sim Pit Road Racing Series, but regardless, good to see Terry around as we come to the end of practice here in just a few short moments. Only a few cars on track, in fact, only 2 on track, those being Seth Fitzpatrick, who just pitted and might be trying a short run here to go for a big lap time, as well as Scott Bailey on track currently in car 11. Could this be an attempt at qualifying trim from Seth?
Maybe right at the end of practice. This is probably going to be the closest you're going to get to qualifying trim, because we've ran the hour-long practice session here, and with that, I don't see him moving up the charts. He will get, I think, 10 seconds of run-up time, and actually that'll do it. So he will not be moving up on the practice boards. Maybe just some internal information there.
Practice will come to a close, and once again, thanks for tuning in here on Pit Stop TV. So glad to have you. A big shout out to our partners here at the channel, of course, Whiplash Media, SimCams at SimWrapMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, as these drivers prepare to go for the Pratt and Tilestone Polo Award. That's a mouthful.
Absolutely. And here, the thing the drivers have actually loved this season is Adam gives 3 laps here in these solo car qualifying sessions. The NextGen car thrives on more laps in the qualifying session. The first lap is usually the diciest. You're not really going to see many fast times set on the first lap in this NextGen car at really any venue. The second lap, it's okay. Most leagues who still do single car solo qualifying, it's 2-lap quality, but with this NextGen car, 3 laps is about that sweet spot, 3 to 4 laps. And this 3-lap quality gives these drivers that chance to shine with the car at optimal tire temp.
Coming down to the speed shot, and lap 1 will officially be done for Jonathan Jennings on his qualifying attempt. Not many drivers on track yet. Joshua Balliet joins him, Vincent Cortez, Jacob Reeves, Adrian Schumacher, but a very slow start to qualifying here for the Outlaws Sim Series with their 14 drivers in attendance today. Jennings to the start-finish line to complete lap number 2. And he goes no faster. So lap 1, the fastest. Oh, there we go. Lap 1 is no longer fastest. It's an 18.656 for Jonathan Jennings. We'll see if he can beat that on this 3rd lap. He was trending purple into turn 3, but across the line at turn number 4, I think he was right about even. Might have picked up a hair. Yes, he does. To an 18.63. And here's Joshua Balliet, currently 2nd.
This is a driver that I think is flying under the radar of a lot of people's minds today. This driver, Joshua Balliet Malico, he won 3 races in Season 1 with the Xfinity Series car. All of those at short tracks. He's been on the part-time schedule since. But this year, ran at Milwaukee, dominated the race, won the first 2 stages, and lost it in the final 5 laps. Joshua Balliet, definitely a force to be reckoned with on these short tracks, and might have a say in today's race. Could be a playoff spoiler.
Well, this guy just beat him. Adrian Schumacher, 2nd in qualifying. That is a lot faster. That is pole. That is pole for Adrian Schumacher on a short track. That is not what I expected at all today.
Provisional pole for the 82 of Adrian Schumacher, and all of a sudden, if you're the rest of those drivers in the Tooth Racing camp in the playoffs, you might have to take notes here and see what there is out there for you, because you have to capitalize in case your teammate ends up winning this and one of you ends up on the far side out.
Yeah, that's one of those kinds of things that boost your confidence if you're Max Servers or Seth Berger, because, well, you're probably on the same setup or at least the same notes, but also, wow, suddenly you might actually end up out of this thing. One of your teammates might actually bump you out. And that's got to be a scary feeling for them. As here's Scott Bailey on track, won last week at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Going to take the high side here in 3 and 4 to try and get a run up at lap number 2, which seems to be a good lap, but I think lap 3 is still a lap of record for a lot of these drivers. Seems to be the fastest of the bunch so far. Bailey 8th quick, Cortez 7th, McMahon 6th, Powell 5th. Fitzpatrick is loaded. He's in his car, but he is not on track yet. Well,
I think these drivers are going to
hurt his run.
That was very sketchy there in the center of 3 and 4. And around he goes.
Hangs on to him only just. And that was the beginning of lap number 3. The second lap, he hit the curb on the inside. I said, yep, that's not going to do it. That ruined both that lap and the run to the next one. Here we go. Max Service will begin his run. Fitzpatrick is also on track and a little further forward. This is his first lap of record for Seth Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, this is the one driver everyone kind of looked at coming into today's race as one of the bottom 4 that could win and, kind of jumble up the 4 that are currently in. The talk in Swift Racing this week is one of those drivers, at bare minimum, will not make the next round of the Championship 4. And most of them were looking but unfortunately, Adrian, that could have changed things around right here. But here comes
Good first
Fitzpatrick
lap.
soaring through the center of 1 and 2. That was a good first lap.
Good that one too. Good for that one too, but he's not good enough. Still a 10th and some change off. Max Service, by the way, is 6th quick so far at an 18.796. Last lap was slower. Here will be... Oh, there is Seth Fitzpatrick to the start-finish line. Does he pick up enough for pole? He does not pick up enough for pole. About a 10th off, and he will stay in 4th position. Max Service, meanwhile, does pick up, it looks like, and he goes to pole! Oh. Swift Racing has brought it today. Here comes Seth Berger on track.
Well, his 2 teammates have kind of set the mark. He's got 3 teammates in the top 4. Seth Berger looking to at least match that right here and working his way through his qualifying attempt onto the back straightaway. He is on his 2nd timed lap and looking for more.
Imagine if we have a Swift Racing breakaway out front, or they're able to control this race. We're looking at a day where we likely will see some green flag racing, and I will knock on wood for that one as Berger goes 5th. It's 18.715. That's one of the better first laps we've seen so far this afternoon. But the Burghardt Chevrolet Camaro will come to complete lap number 2 this time by. Does he go any faster? He picks up. He's already in the 6s. This is a good lap on the way. Oh, and he's done. That was lap 3. I missed a lap, I guess. That was lap 3, so it's a good lap, but it's not good enough for pole. He will sit 4th. That explains why what I thought was lap 1 was so good.
He did pip his teammate there, and Joshua Balliet. Here's another one of those drivers in that bottom 4, Jeremiah Stutzman. Not bringing the confidence with him this week. I'm still very confident in this driver because I know anything can and anything will happen. There's a reason why he's a 3-time winner on the season, and here comes Jeremiah.
He bobbled out of 2. He's sliding into 3. I just don't know if this lap is going to be good. And through 3 and 4. He's digging, but a bobble there out of 4 as well. That car is just on edge. Needs to get the rear end underneath him, and he goes, it looks like a few thousandths quicker, but that only moves him up to the 11th position. Well, it keeps him in 11th, and unfortunately, he was so close. Well, he's got one more lap, it looks like, but he's right on Vinny Cortez. We're talking about 2 1,000ths of a second between them. Can he pick up here? No. No, we cannot.
Yeah, after it looked very sketchy there on the 2nd lap, that 3rd lap, he looked very tight. That car not agreeing with him at all, and very much a difficult run there. So we've gotten times from all 8 of our playoff drivers this evening. Scott Bailey, the slowest of them, but of course he's locked in. So really, it didn't matter how he runs tonight. It would just be for personal confidence to have a good run tonight. But Stutzman, one of those drivers who needs to win to make it in, not having the greatest of runs either there, 11th.
And how about Vinny Cortez, 10th? That is off for Vinny. I know this is a short track. We've seen him on speedways mostly, and he's been great on those speedways, but 10th feels a little bit off for him. And that's 3.5 tenths off a pole as well. That just doesn't seem right for Vinny Cortez. But 2 minutes left in qualifying, and it looks like nobody is taking to the track, Emerson. Swift Racing, cars 81 and 82 especially, they have got something that we did not expect.
Absolutely. This was something else. We of course, we saw Max bring the heat at qualifying last week at Atlanta, but they missed the mark at Atlanta as a team. And today, where we really didn't expect them to hit their marks as we expected them last week or last time out at Atlanta to, all of a sudden they shoot up to the top of the charts. 4 of the top 5, and all 5 that entered today in the top 10. Definitely probably got the minds at Last Chance scrambling a little bit. There's probably a little bit of a team huddle going on in that Discord right now in Last Chance as well, because that certainly has probably put a lot of worry into drivers like Fitzpatrick and like Jacob Reeves, he's been pretty much a must-win since Atlanta as well.
Just waiting on the final minute to tick down. It looks like Devin Smith, Adam Gardner not getting the memo to hit that button to end their qualifying runs, but that's okay. And actually, it could be that Vinny Cortez didn't actually complete his 3rd lap. Who knows? But regardless, these guys getting extra time to switch their setups over to their race setup in Emerson. That means we have more time to talk about this race and what we might expect today. 78 degrees on track, or sorry, in the air. That's actually warming up now. 125 degrees on track. It's getting warmer.
Yeah, we were. I was just looking at it right. It is right now 114 in the sim. The temp still has room to get hotter. I didn't even think about that when we got to the qualifying session. Typically, drivers wait in this 10-minute qualifying period to go later in the session because the track gets cooler. Well, it got hotter, and I think maybe that's why we saw Max go at 6 minutes. He's probably waiting to see if it got lower. Saw it got hotter. He's like, well, I might as well go as soon as I can before it gets any more hotter. And well, the result was pretty good for V81.
10 seconds to go, nobody on track. Devin Smith and Adam Gardner will take goose eggs for their qualifying runs as they will start 13th and 14th. Time ticking down, the session's switching over, and we're doing it Wilkes County style. It is exciting to be here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, and this is definitely, I think, a bucket list item, rejuvenated for everybody in the NASCAR world, or just short track, really oval racing in general. It's a place you've got to go at some point. I'm kind of sad I wasn't able to make it this past August for Racetrack Revival, but it sounds like it just might be around to stay as we venture into the future with 2023 and beyond. Let's go ahead and check out our starting grid for North Wilkesboro Speedway for the Outlaws Sim Series. On pole, look at that, Max Service in car 81. That is such an impressive run still through qualifying for the 81 and 82 cars. Max Service on pole alongside his teammate Adrian Schumacher. Swift Racing on the front row. Jonathan Jennings will start from third, breaking up that Swift Racing top five with Seth Berger in fourth and Joshua Valiette in fifth. Otherwise, they would have things locked down up front. Seth Fitzpatrick also towards the front of the field, starting from sixth tonight. And to round out your top half of the field, Emerson, Justin McMahon. I know his name, I promise. Justin McMahon from the 20 car will start seventh.
Yeah, starting eighth will be that 22 of Jacob Reeves in a must-win situation. A couple playoff spoilers potentially here in run number 5. Kevin Powell in the 93, brother to Jonathan Jennings, had a great run at Phoenix. Finished second to him there. Vincent Cortez, of course, taking the win 2 races ago at Homestead. Find our way back to row number 6, and we'll find one of the other 2 playoff drivers here. The 71 of Jeremiah Stutzman in a must-win situation. The 11 of Scott Bailey, he just won and is very much in a calm, cool, and collected situation heading in to Richmond. And the final row of tonight's grid is a couple of the admins in the series, Devin Smith and Adam Gardner.
250 laps on tap as we get ready to go racing from Western North Carolina. Got that one mixed up. The east portion of the state, of course, closer to the coast, and kind of get those coastal lowlands, get great racetracks out there like Carteret County Speedway, Goodyear All-American Speedway, and some others. Even Southern National Motorsports Park, they just had their Thanksgiving Classic. But over on the west side of the state, you get more mountains, you get more foothills, and nestled on top of one of those foothills, of course, is the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Again, so glad to have you all watching this evening. If you haven't yet, follow us over on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the whole bunch of them. We even broadcast to Twitch, and we are getting ready for the 35th round of 36 this season for the Outlaws Sim Series. This is going to be fun. A bit of a lower car count, but boy, we don't really need that with this tight of a racetrack. Not even a whole lot of racing room on the pavement. Let's see what we can do. Car 81 on pole. That is Max Service on pole. Adrian Schumacher outside pole. We're racing in Wilkes County. Lap 1 complete, Max Service out front, Schumacher still nestled in second, and now there's a side-by-side with Jonathan Jennings and his teammate, Seth Fitzpatrick, but the Swift top 3, they're off and away.
Absolutely, and that's what Seth Berger wanted. He wanted to get out towards the front, kind of get nestled up here, and kind of get situated, not get stuck up in the pack, not get into a battle. Kind of just figure himself out into a spot here and start running his own race. Max Service doing exactly what he needs to do, being out front, try to get himself some laps led. That's a bonus point to his name. That makes it a 7-point gap over Seth Berger. But also, of course, Seth Berger also has to look at teammate Adrian Schumacher. If something were to happen to the 81, or if he's able to get around the 81, that could potentially knock him out.
Here's the onboard from Berger. You see the deficit there, bottom right of your screen. 3/10 as they cross to start lap number 5, and already these laps kind of ticking away. And that's the goal, I think, for a lot of these drivers, just get laps under their belts and get through this race. Stage 1, it's quickly going to pay some points.
Absolutely. The stages, of course, they come up at the 20% and the 45% marks of the evening. So that is lap 50 and lap 113, where we will be awarding stage points to the top 10. And back when we took that on board with Seth, you already noticed 2 different lines being ran in the corners. You saw it there a little bit between Fitzpatrick and Jennings. Jennings ran a little bit higher, trying to get a little bit of clean air to the nose. Now Fitzpatrick actually kind of running that line. But we saw Seth running a little lower than Adrian earlier in the run. So drivers kind of maybe trying to find that clean air, just trying to maybe save that right front by taking different arcs into the corner. Of course, wider arcs typically are better for right front tire wear, but depending on where the bumps are, you may not want to take that wide of an arc if there's a bad bump that can get the car upset.
Watching this battle of 5th and 6th now, Fitzpatrick is starting to pull away from Jennings, who is now having to deal with Joshua Balliet. It's not really much of a battle. Malenko sitting back and just kind of biding his time, but they're at least looking at each other and, oh, Kevin Powell, he's got trouble in the back. I'm not sure what happened, but he was slow.
Little off the pace back there. I see Adam Gardner near there as well. I don't know if they were involved in an incident together, and I believe it was maybe a single car incident, actually, now that I think about it, with how they were running. We'll get the replay here.
We'll find out for ourselves. The Dave Blaney Amico throwback here for Powell out of turn 4 just gets loose and noses it there into the inside wall. And that is all it was for car 93. Thankfully, it wasn't any larger than that, and we keep on rolling here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. Not many battles, but one that we have to watch, even though they're separated by a few tenths right now. Adrian Schumacher and Seth Berger. I'm excited to see how this is going to develop throughout the course of the day, being teammates and so close in pace. But right behind these guys, 2 more teammates are of their own, are starting to get very, very close. I wonder if Jennings is going to get at all impatient with Seth Fitzpatrick.
Well, we remember last time out, right, where we thought Jennings was kind of, laying over, kind of letting, and maybe he was at that point of the race, but, we thought he was going to play the team game and try to help Scott Bailey get into the playoffs. Well, here, even though Jennings is locked in now mathematically, he's not going to cut Fitzpatrick any breaks. He actually dives to his inside. He's trying to get clear of him, and this is going to open the door to Fitzpatrick being attacked by the 7 of Malenko. And he's looking to the inside. He can't get his nose down there, so Fitzpatrick will slot in there in 5th. Now, here comes Balliet now. And all of a sudden, teammate getting to your inside makes you lose a couple spots.
Yeah, that's really a curious decision there by Jonathan Jennings. I understand the selfish kind of way to race, but I would think that'd be the point of having teammates, for them to help you out a little bit and you to help them out a little bit. And unfortunately for Seth Fitzpatrick, no help given there.
Yeah, Fitzpatrick, again, he's one of the drivers who look on the long run of these races. I think back to when he won Milwaukee, Joshua Balliet, the car right in front, led 175 laps of that 200-lap race. And it was Seth Fitzpatrick who came right at the end, and took the win right from under his nose with 5 laps to go, just because Fitzpatrick had a better long-run car. But being 6th at a track that we're already kind of seeing is it's pretty difficult to pass, it may not bode well. 250 laps, it can feel like a long time, but if you spend 40, 50 laps working on one car, I mean, you can't spend that much time on every car. It's gonna be a tough one if Fitzpatrick's gonna win his way into the next round.
Already nearly 20 laps into this race. There are some other battles, I think, that are worth talking about further back in this field, such as with Vincent Cortez, Justin McMahon, and Jacob Reeves. Reeves still in these playoffs, has a chance to win tonight, certainly. But right now, 7th spot just kind of doesn't seem like he's in that conversation. It feels like there's 6 cars at the top that are good and 7 at the bottom that are just kind of riding around, honestly. And I don't mean that with any disrespect to the 7 that are riding around tonight, but a lot of them don't have the big, I guess, bragging rights to race for right now. They're not in the playoffs, most of them. That'd be Cortez, McMahon, Gardner, and Powell. But the couple that are, they don't have the speed tonight.
Yeah, I'm a little shocked to see someone like Vincent Cortez feedback here. Jacob Reeves, of course, one of the drivers I looked at this season, and he still has a chance to, of course, next week. But I looked at this season to get a win fairly early on this season. One of the most impressive drivers, one of the more impressive rookies I'd seen early on, and he just hadn't been able to piece these races together. Both of these drivers had run-ins with one another a couple times this season. And Cortez, he was just telling me the other day, you know, he's starting to like these short tracks more and more. So I was expecting a little bit more pace out of him today. But still a long way to go. Of course, maybe the long run could kick in here, but these two battling it out right now for that 7th position.
Meanwhile, a little further back, I'm noticing that a couple of very important drivers are getting closer, and actually call it 3, as Malenko's in this fight, but Seth Berger and Jonathan Jennings suddenly are very close on track. This a battle for 3rd position, and the Burghards Chevrolet Camaro trying to squeeze on down on top of that 91 and close the door, but not quite able to get down there. And now I think Jennings really has himself an in there on the bottom side of the racetrack, but it's still a viable opportunity to defend if you're Seth Berger.
Berger, of course, defending with everything, because if Adrian is able to get around Max, he needs to keep himself afloat up here in the standings, give himself a chance to try to overtake Max in the point standings. And he is racing really hard here with Jonathan Jennings. Jennings racing perfectly as well, being pinched down, but not giving it too much gas. He's not washing up into the 77, playing it pretty patiently. I'd say cautiously aggressive from the 91 there.
Heard that a few times in NASCAR racing, that term, cautiously aggressive. And it's one of my favorites, actually. As you can see, these guys out of turn number 2 down the back straightaway, just kind of riding a little bit. I feel like Jennings can definitely get there again, but at what cost to the tires, right? Do you really want to push that hard this early in the race still? We're not even, well, we just hit halfway in stage 1. And I say that, but a little bit of contact there, and that moves Berger up the racetrack.
Wow, a little bit of contact there, kicking things off early. I know Seth and Burger Nation supporting him out in the chat will not be very happy with that move. But of course, you have to stay in it. It's a long race. Keep yourself in it. Don't let that get to you. Keep a clear mind and see if you can get it back later on in the run. It looks like just right now, Jennings has that little bit more pace at the moment. The other thing to think about here is Balliet. He kind of showed up to this race just kind of to go at bat for the Swift Racing drivers, kind of give him that extra car up here towards the front of the field to help him out in a point scenario. And I wouldn't be shocked if he were to give Jennings the bumper.
There's the replay from Berger's perspective. You see Jennings get real close in 3 and 4, and down here in 1 and 2, it's really light contact, but it's enough to move Seth off of the racing line. It's right there, just very light contact.
Classic bump and run.
That was hardly even a bump and run. That was like a breathe on you and run. That was maybe a kiss and run. I mean, that was such light contact between those two. We'll get one more look at it, this time from the perspective of the 91. Such light contact right there, but it's just enough.
And with these NextGen cars, I've ran a few laps here, especially here. I feel it's very easy to overcorrect the car. You know, if I was in Seth's spot, I very much could have seen myself nosing into that outside wall. Seth did a very good job at staying calm, letting the car come back to him up the hill, regathering himself and keeping himself in this race.
So Berger now in the 5th position, rather snugly as well. It looks like he's got plenty of room around him to at least breathe now that he's fought off Fitzpatrick for a moment, but the two sets actually might go at it here by the end of this stage. I still feel for Fitzpatrick. I gotta say, every team can do things how they want to do them, but if I was in Seth's shoes, I would feel a little bit upset, I think, definitely, given the way the start of this race went. I know you say he's kind of a long-run guy, but to get raced aggressively, I would say, by your teammate in the first 20 laps when you really need the points and he's locked in, that's going to chafe you a little bit.
That's right. I agree with that. Especially how early it was. I understand if maybe that was 20 laps to go, and Jennings, feels he can win the race. At that point, it's kind of get out the way, racing for yourself. But here, that could have been, a little bit of slack cut. Maybe he would have been able to find his way by the 77 now. Keep the 7 in check. Kind of make this a little bit better for Jennings's perspective as well, and not have like Valiant breathing down his neck right now. So it was just a weird situation to put yourself in as teammates this early into the race. But of course, Jennings, he feels, he is racing for a championship, and even though next week is a championship race, he feels, he feels it started at Daytona, but he feels he has to prove that tonight.
I think the weirdest thing about it for me was it wasn't even a situation where Jennings could just quickly pass Seth and they could swap spots. No, it was Joshua was right there, Mal was right there, and got underneath Seth as well, and Seth lost 2 spots. It wasn't just letting your teammate go by because he's faster now and then get in line and ride. It was let your teammate go by and lose a spot after that and keep losing time because you're on top of the racetrack, and that just feels like a really odd teammate dynamic. But hey, if it works out for him, if Seth feels like he's got more tools to go out in there and win these races, and that's what he needs. So more power to them, as long as hopefully the 2-car can get back a little further ahead of where he is currently, as it looks like, here we go, a battle for 8th position brewing.
Yeah, Stutzman, he's kind of been on the march forward, and that's kind of what I expect out of Stutzman. He saves his stuff. He kind of slowly works his way into these races. He might need a caution or two. He's going to find himself battling it out later in this race. But Stutzman, he kind of lets the races come to him. Didn't have the greatest of starting positions, working his way forward up to A past McMahon, our All-Star race winner, and Cortez trying to get a piece of the action there for 9th.
Vincent Cortez has fallen back a little bit in that 10th spot. I think that's actually where he started, isn't it? I mentioned that he started way deeper than I would have expected, so he's right where he started, I guess, but in a weird position, I think, nonetheless, for him, especially as it seems like he might be going real racing here very, very soon on a shorter track at New Smyrna Speedway down in New Smyrna, Florida. And it's always cool to see an iRacer getting into grassroots racing. I think he might be a little better on short tracks in a year's time, honestly. That's one of those kinds of things as well, that maybe he is a speedway racer at heart, but he's going to go short track race because it's what he can do. And maybe, like I'm saying, I think maybe in a year he's a whole lot better on these short tracks and actually is up there with guys like Jonathan Jennings and Adrian Schumacher right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, he just bought his race car that he's going to start running here in a couple months. He just bought that 2 days ago. And right there he gets past McMahon. No, they're racing side by side. I didn't actually see where McMahon had went. Cortez was very excited to get out there. And he's kind of been talking about that for a few months here, and he's finally able to make it happen. They continue battling on. McMahon riding a little up the track there. That should allow Cortez to cleanly work his way through. Oh, coming back, though.
Looks like that battle might finally be over as the group, number 20 Chevrolet, has to give way to the Nexus Esports 23. And finally, Vincent Cortez can start to try and get away from Justin McMahon now with the 9th position. Jonathan Jennings, Joshua Balliet still very close on track as we near the end of Stage 1, Emerson. Just an interesting race in general. Very much off to a green flag start as we expected. Interesting teammate dynamics, and Seth Berger sliding back quickly. I think the 2 Seths are a little bit underwhelming right now.
I could agree with that. Definitely expected better out of both of them. Granted, this is very good drivers that they've been racing with and that are ahead of them as well. But yeah, Seth Berger with the chance to make it to a 3rd championship 4, kind of relying on him having a good run to keep himself in that top 4. Not the run I expect he'd put up so far. A lot of racing to go. He might try to get lap led on pit cycles and all that, but right now, as we look at it, it's 7 points back to Max, plus it'll be 4 more points in Max's favor. That'll make it 11 points in Max's favor between them should Schumacher or Fitzpatrick or Reeves or Stutzman win this race.
Yeah, very much looking like a Max Service kind of day, and he needs it to, I think, as well. Regardless of who ends up winning his race. Obviously, if he wins, that's best case scenario, and he's leading now as we complete stage number 1 here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. And it's Schumacher, Jennings, Balliet, and Berger. Fitzpatrick goes 6th. Reeves, Stutzman, Cortez, and McMahon, your top 10 at the end of stage number 1. So while these guys continue on, we've still got to do 4 more of what we just did. 200, now 199 laps to go from Wilkesboro. We'll be back in just a few.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence. Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome back to Pit Stop TV for continuing coverage of the Outlaws Sim Series from North Wilkesboro Speedway. Even the stuff around the track is such Americana almost. It's so throwback NASCAR. Picture there of the Silver Fox inside the track. It's just so cool. Even in the sim, just random things around here. It looks the part for 1987 as these guys continue on, eclipsing lap 69 onto lap 70, and maybe a little tap there to the wall from Adam Gardner. But thanks for joining us here at Pit Stop TV today for coverage here from Wilkesboro. Let's quickly recap the standings Emerson coming into tonight and theorize how things have changed. Of course, Bailey and Jennings, they're good. Service just picked up a bunch of points. He should now be an extra, I guess, a total of 11 points over Seth Berger and a whole lot more now to Fitzpatrick. And Fitzpatrick, I think, without that big gain that he needed in Stage 1, it's a must-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Max right there, if he won and Fitzpatrick was 6 there, so that's 5 points more. That'd make it a 25-point gap, and even if they were to flip right there, or Max wasn't able to get stage 1 to stage 2 and Fitzpatrick would win, it'd still be 15 points, and there's only 14 cars in the race. Patrick is effectively in a must-win situation. I'm sure he felt that way coming into today's race, and we all thought he'd be the one to kind of show up and challenge that. But we've looked at Adrian Schumacher, the one in second. He's right there. If he's kind of lost a little bit of touch with Max now at a 2.7 second deficit, but he's still here in second. He's going toe-to-toe with Jennings and Malenko and Seth Berger. And if something were to happen to Max, he's right now in the position to take advantage of it.
A view from our fan cam here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. A good idea of what it might have looked like in 1987 to watch cars around here, although these are definitely not cars from 1987. The NASCAR NextGen car meeting in North Wilkesboro Speedway in one heck of a mashup tonight. New meets old. There we go. Just a really cool combo tonight. But this is the battle for second, third, fourth, and really even fifth with Berger in the pack. The leader, Max Service, 2.5 seconds ahead of these guys, 2.5 seconds up the road, but you've got 4 cars under a blanket.
Yeah, absolutely. We were seeing there in the side-by-side, Joshua Balliet, Malika, he was trying to get to the inside of Jennings. He did get down there a couple times. He got tight into turn one of those laps. He decided to lift, not getting the Jennings there, kind of back off, give it a go again. But that battle drove Seth Berger back into the mix between those two, and they've slowly caught Adrian Schumacher. And now if I'm looking at that delta, that gap between Service and Schumacher, that is slightly coming down in the favor of Schumacher. Very, very slightly, but it is looking like it gets smaller every time they run through the center of the corner. Track time 129. Oh, it's a scorcher.
Yeah, I think we've officially reached scorcher territory once you get close to 130. At first, at 120, it was like, all right, that's just a warm day, but it's starting to really creep up there. Nearly 130 degrees track temp. It's definitely warm for these drivers, and thankfully they don't have to feel that, but the tires certainly do as we get close to lap 80. And Emerson, you and I talked briefly in the side-by-side about pit strategy. Service could come in early here if the tires are starting to go away, but now he's actually picked up a tenth or so back, and now he loses it. It's kind of an ebb and flow between these guys, but as he nears this lap traffic as well, the two-stop strategy, if you split it evenly, puts these guys pitting where? Around 84, you said? 85?
Yeah, if you split this race into even thirds, that would be, a two-stop strategy. 83 or 84, and you're looking at like 167, 168 on the far side. And if Max was starting to lose time, I probably, right about now would be the time to start sounding the alarm. If you were starting to feel some tire fall off, go and just bring it on in at that 83, 84 mark. But now he's picking up some time. He's kind of opened up a gap to Schumacher. I've really liked what you mentioned here, Andrew. We know that they can go 170 laps on fuel, on a full tank of fuel. Again, I don't see anybody going from now to lap 170 out here without a pit stop. But I like going to the end of stage 2. What you mentioned in the break there, Andrew. Finishing stage 2, getting your stage points, especially if you're Max Service. Build yourself that margin over your teammate Seth Berger. At the moment, that would look like a 15-point margin if things were to hold over the next 30 laps. And then pit there, and then run the rest of the race out on those tires if you made it comfortably to 114.
Yeah, I think pitting a little bit early, a little ahead of the exact halfway might be the move. Go ahead and short pit a little bit. Get a bit of an undercut on these guys. Get those new tires on as quickly as you can and pick those times back up. Granted, there's not a whole lot of fall off, about a second and change for these drivers. So it's nothing too crazy, but that's still seconds that you're going to tack back on. And it's going to be tough at a place like North Wilkesboro to get that position back, or, you know, if it is a position, or at least get that time back, certainly, and make a pass, even if you have older tires and the guy is trying to pass you. So I really think pitting right at the end of the stage, lap 114, is going to be the way to go.
Yeah, and right now we're at that mark, right? If you were to make it a two-stop race, Balliette's coming. He's going to try. He's not a playoff driver. He doesn't have anything to lose. The downside to this, right, is you pit here, you're going to go at least 2 laps down, and if caution does come out, you're going to be trapped those 2 laps down. It's going to be really hard to gain those back. So Balliette, you know, he's got nothing to lose. He was just here to help out Swift Racing if they came down to a point scenario. And at that, the rest of it, you know, was just for him to go for the win.
And you know what this does, actually, Emerson, is it does help Swift Racing in the points. It gives Berger 1 more point.
Oh. Yeah. Forgot about that. You know, it gives Berger that spot. Cortez, also a non-playoff driver, Swift Racing. They're going to try it and, you know, see if there's... Oh, Berger's in. That
is an odd choice from Seth Berger. I think just trying to do something that the guys around him are not, as he actually has to slow up for his teammate, Vincent Cortez. Hopefully it's not much on the racetrack, but that was probably a half-tenth or so for the 77 having to let the 23 out of his box. Berger up on the left sides, and he will leave at 14:01. That is a slow stop, slower than Balliette's by a half second.
Right. So right here, Seth Berger, this, of course, he's rooting for 2 things right now. Of course, no caution, and if this race goes green to the end, and he's not able to get up there and get himself into the mix, he is probably going to be the biggest Max Service fan. And unfortunately, rooting against his teammate Adrian Schumacher, because if Adrian, again, was to get the win, at the moment, it'd knock out Seth Berger. So Seth trying something, probably doesn't feel, as he said, that he can win this race on you know, staying out there. You know, I guess try something. If you need to end up winning this race, you know, you can't win it being on the same strategy as everyone else.
And he will be faster now, but I just don't know if it's going to get him the lap and a half that he's down. He's a lap and change behind the leaders, and that's about a lap and a half behind where he was. He's only going to have 20 or so laps on these tires. That's to make up one of the laps that he's down. He's going to be a half lap back, and he still has 1 more pit stop. The guys out there, they will not have 1 more pit stop if they go to halfway. I don't think this is at all a good strategy, really. I think this could be a good strategy if we get a caution at some point, but otherwise, I just don't think this is going to make up what these guys are otherwise losing.
Right, and right now, you know, everyone's making their bed right now. Seth,
and look at
is
this
not
traffic.
That's right. He's in some dense traffic. He got lucky. He's actually come out only 1 lap down, you know, along with Balliette and Cortez, and if anyone else tried this strategy. They're only 1 lap down. And Max is now coming in. This was a little shocking, but Max is giving up the lead to Schumacher.
Right when we think it might not work, service comes in as Gardner. Adam Gardner racing here with Fitzpatrick and Berger. This is a really interesting scenario as we see this battle now as Vincent Cortez pulls up on it. That's 3 wide into turn 3, and the 22 didn't get the message. That's a crash.
Oh,
Vincent Cortez and Jacob Reeves, and a caution will come out just as service pitted. Adrian Schumacher will take over the race lead. Chaos in the middle of the pit cycle here at Wilkesboro.
And Max is a lap down. He's going to have to take the wave around. Now, he did just pit. So if somebody's going to take a wave around, that's probably the best scenario to be in.
The lucky dog will be Seth Berger.
Yes, it will. Because Balliette and Bailey got back on the lead. Oh, my goodness.
Wow. A lot just happened. That was an aggressive dive, certainly, from Vinny Cortez. And you've mentioned it a couple of times this season. Who was that alongside of? Oh, it was Jacob Reeves.
Oh, no.
Let's go back and get a look at it. This will be from the perspective of Vincent Cortez at a turn 3.
That's a pretty over-aggressive move, Vinny.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but that's just silly, especially racing, trying to pass a driver that is in the playoffs, but you are not actually racing for position at that point in time. That's one of the silliest things I've seen on a racetrack in a while.
I know what Vinny will say, and he felt like he was trying to get to the inside of the 22, and then that little bobble on the straightaway right here trying to get around Adam. He'll probably feel like that was an attempted block, and he tried to go a little lower, but that's yeah, Vinny, that could have been avoided.
And that effectively ends the season for Jacob Reeves. There is certainly reason right now, I think, for the 22 car to be very livid. And if this was a real race, if we were actually in Wilkesboro right now, I think that'd be a fight. And it would be warranted, honestly. This is the downshift. This is just a really, really silly incident that did not need to happen.
Right there you see the damage to Reeves. The right front destroyed. Can't turn.
Season over.
Yep, that's 8 minute 20. And
was there a likelihood at the time of the crash that he would win? Maybe not. But could it have happened? Certainly. And now it won't.
With that, Cortez will be getting the EOL, I guess along with the 22, but the 22 can't get an EOL. So Cortez will be getting the EOL for the caution, which means Service will be the only wave around. And Service, who was in control of this race, all of a sudden, he's going to be at the back, starting behind his teammate Seth Berger, while their teammate Adrian Schumacher leads the race.
Berger gets the free pass, so there he goes to get onto the lead lap.
I think there's some weird timing. He got waved around the pace car. I think he came in for service and got relapped. Not entirely sure, but the wave rounds are the lucky dogs are done manually here in the Outlaws Sim Series, just to avoid any confusion or in the event that you avoid an incident, you clip the grass, you're still able to get your lucky dog. Adam, who was in that wreck, still waved around Vincent Cortez. That's intriguing.
That is interesting.
I mean, he was in that wreck. I
suppose if you're in front of the leader, I don't know. But is there anybody you want to talk to here, Emerson? We've got several drivers in very different positions now. I mean, Seth Fitzpatrick is suddenly third spot. This is...
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick would be a good one. Kind of some life rejuvenated in that tube machine. We'll go ahead and then we'll bring him on up. Driver of the number 2, Seth Fitzpatrick. Seth, that first run was looking a little rough. You kind of get this caution, a little bit of a reset here. How you feeling?
I don't know, really. Just trying to stay focused. I know what I got to do. And just trying to do it.
Right on. Did you feel like you learned anything in those first 90 laps?
I don't know. I don't know. It's funky. It feels nothing like what it did in practice. I don't know. I'm just trying to do it.
Well, here you are. Here you're in a spot. You have another driver who's in a must-win in front of you. Your teammate who's locked in, but early on looks like hasn't cut you any slack. How are you going to go about this restart? How aggressive will you be? How aggressive will you be with your teammate?
Well, I'm not going to be really aggressive with anybody because we got 150 laps to go. So we're just going to run it out.
All right, well, there you go. Getting ready to restart here. Driver of the number 2, starting inside row number 2, Seth Fitzpatrick. Good luck, driver.
Looks like we'll have about 9 laps to go here in stage 2. So a bit of a quick feeling stage for sure for these guys, but we've still got some racing to do. Green flag back out here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Schumacher, the race leader. Fitzpatrick takes the second spot away into turn 3. Balliet tries to follow. And the race back to the start finish. Schumacher's going to win it, but he's got heat right behind him.
Yeah, now we're looking at 8 laps to go here in for the stage win. And here comes Fitzpatrick trying to get a dose of stage points to his total. Schumacher trying to get some as well. I think they're both in must-win situations, but this would do wonders to the confidence. Here comes Balliet.
For
Caution.
either one, oh, well, there we go. I was going to say, for either one of those two drivers, it would be huge, as a caution will fly in the back. McMahon, Berger, and Service.
Oh, no. 2
very important drivers to this playoff. It looks like both of these cars are okay, but damaged certainly.
They might have gotten away with some there.
Berger's definitely torn
damage for Seth, but he also did have a minor bit of front end damage before this. We'll see what happened, but 2 drivers who they are all of a sudden their
Watch the
situation being
20.
magnified here.
White, blue, and orange, and he just gets loose, comes down the racetrack, clips the 81, sends him around, and Vinny's able to stop for the most part, but definitely a couple of hits there for Berger and Service.
I think Service got away with just a kiss on the outside wall to his left front there.
Here's from Berger's perspective. Actually, this is the lap prior, so we'll really be able to see everything just kind of happen. It all happens quickly here at Wilkesboro.
And where the 20 lost control there. That's so easy to do because of you mentioned going up the hill and then down the hill on exit.
A pretty big hit to the nose. I'd be concerned if I'm Berger about long-term viability of that car now. I think temperatures could rise, but at the same time, you're going to have the stage break here in a few moments. And depending on how long this caution goes, it could end up being your stage break, but then you just end up more opportunities to pit and get some of that damage repaired, even if it's only a few seconds at a time. That's my concern there for Seth. As far as Max Service, I think he's okay. That's really light.
The unfortunate thing is, and what's been a rule in the Outlaws Sim Series forever, is the first 2 cars involved in the caution get the EOL. So Max Service was also EOL because he was the second car in the caution. And obviously that rule is not meant for incidents like this, but unfortunately that is the rule. He's going to EOL here. Seth, who's damaged, will start ahead of him.
Cortez comes in. McMahon also in the pit lane. Reeves in the pit lane, 13 laps down. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that pit right now, just to hear the reaction, certainly, as Adam Gardner, by the way, is also 18 laps down. It looks like he is done for the day after that incident a little while ago to bring out our first caution on the afternoon. Now, Adrian Schumacher, your race leader, and he's got a team. Will have a teammate to his right side for this restart. Does he maybe then choose the outside?
I don't know.
It's looking like he is.
Right, and Balliet, he's here to help the Swift Racing cause. I know he wants to win the race. I don't know how hard he'd race Adrian for it. And then remember, regardless of session state, the end of lap 113 is the end of the stage. So this is going to be looking like a 1-lap shootout for this stage.
Yeah, I said earlier there'd be a caution for the stage break. Of course, there won't be. Thinking NASCAR things there, but these guys will come down to the start-finish line this time by and get this race back underway with a 1-lap shootout for stage points here at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Green flag is back out. Down the back straightaway, Balliet and Jennings, your battle for second. Schumacher is going to take this stage win here in stage number 2 at North Wilkesboro Speedway, and just like that, 2 stages out of the way. And these guys, they can actually go now to the end of the race. They don't necessarily have to pit.
That's right. We're at that mark now. You can... Oh, we got a caution out. Oh, no, we don't. We just have Jeremiah Stutson spinning in the back. Still had the yellow on my screen, but that was from earlier. And it's been a rough day for Stutzman. Someone who's in a must-win situation, and the track end the best of them there out of 2. Side
by side for the race lead for the first time really all day. It's the second time. That previous restart, we saw a little bit of it as well. But here we go. Jennings on the outside of Schumacher. Toe-to-toe for the race lead. And one of the best short track drivers in the series just took the advantage in 1 and 2.
Yeah, if you're a Seth Berger fan, I mean, unfortunately, you're going to have to root against the Swift Racing driver here. You're a big Jonathan Jennings fan right now. If Jennings wins this race, Berger will be in. And Jennings, who just takes the lead there. Now Fitzpatrick trying to follow through. You do not need Fitzpatrick to win if you're a Berger fan. And certainly Adrian, Schumacher fan, still want Fitzpatrick to win here. This is a very important battle.
Side by side now for second. Fitzpatrick will pull away. Now it's a side by side for third. And Schumacher just continues to lose time. He really needed the outside lane in that battle. And now he drops down to fourth.
I think Adrian kind of recognized the situation. He knows Balliet is at least at a comparable pace with Fitzpatrick. He was faster in the first stint of this race. So he'll let Balliet kind of duel it out with Fitzpatrick. Now we've got this battle back here. The Swift Racing guys who are higher up in the running order, they got to kind of work their way through the back end of the field here between Scott Bailey and Kevin Powell back here.
On board with Max Service. He's going to follow Seth Berger to the top side of the track, around the 11 of Bailey. Oh, just can't quite get going to the turn 2 that time, though, so he's going to lose a little bit of time to Berger. And now Seth going to look to the inside of Powell in 3 and 4. And finally, it looks like Service will be able to nose ahead a little bit of Scott Bailey in 1 and 2 that time, but the 11 will not go down quietly.
Absolutely not. Well, Scott Bailey, I know, probably doesn't feel like he has the winning pace today. He still has something to show. These are drivers he could be going against here in a couple weeks' time at Richmond for a championship. He wants to show that he's going to be a force to be reckoned with there.
That also a short track. This is important for him.
Right. Service to the inside of Powell.
Spot.
And he is cleared on through. So Berger and Service 5th and 6th. Now they look to try to chase down teammate Adrian Schumacher, who's been on the struggling end a little bit on this restart. Bailey loses a spot out there to Cortez. So it seems. He fights back.
Meanwhile, for second, Fitzpatrick defending from Balliet. This could be good.
Again, this was pretty much Balliet's purpose of racing today. Yes, you know, he'd like to win, but really he's kind of goal was to kind of keep a non-Swift Racing driver from knocking out a Swift Racing driver, and trying to get to the inside of Fitzpatrick here in this battle for second. Balliet very much capable of being a playoff spoiler, was almost a playoff spoiler at Milwaukee until Fitzpatrick came along.
This is an important battle for a lot of reasons. Of course, this puts Fitzpatrick one more spot back if he loses this position, but also if something happens to Jennings, that is one more position that Fitzpatrick would have to gain, because now he's third instead of second. He's not the immediate beneficiary. Balliet would be. So this is big, and it looks like Malenko is going to take that spot at the turn 4 right as we go on past halfway.
Into the second half of this race, yeah, Malenko up to second. And remember from that first stint, Andrew, Malenko, he was kind of beating the back bumper off of Jennings earlier. Now this time it's a little different. Jennings has clean air, but I feel like Balliet himself feels like he has the advantage on Jennings. He might go try to chase him down here and take this one.
I'm not saying anything's going to happen, Emerson. I just want everybody to be aware. The car 22 is back on the racetrack. And Jacob Reeves, he's not going to make the final round of the playoffs. That's 24 laps he would have to gain. And I don't think we're going to have 24 cautions at this point, certainly. But he is back on track and at least turning some laps to try and get himself back into as good a position as he can. And finish the season out on a high note, hopefully, for car 22. Not how he wanted things to go, Emerson. But the best he can do at this point is just go out on a high note. Do the best he can here today, run as many laps as he can, and try to show out to next week.
Yeah, 3 very tough races for Jacob Reeves, who kind of started off this round in a hole because he didn't have as many playoff points as the rest of his competitors. As the big 6 kind of hoarded the playoff points, and he was coming into this round, I believe, in the 8th seed. And Adrian Schumacher here just getting passed by Max Service. That's an important battle. there for Max's sake if he's going to get back into this. Now, not that at the moment Max is in any trouble of losing his championship 4 spot, but if Max Service is able to get up there, that could be a big momentum boost between two of the championship favorites we talked about this season in Jennings and Service. Here goes the battle between Powell and Cortez.
This battle is for 7th on the racetrack. And Vinny this time, the dive into 3. He's going to have him clear maybe at a turn 4. And yes, Vincent Cortez takes that spot away for the 7th spot on the racetrack. All while, Jacob Reeves takes a position away from Justin McMahon, who is still parked in the pit lane, 24 laps down now. Gardner as well, 40 laps down out of this race, currently, at least off track for now. And Joshua Balliet might be starting to gain some time here on the race leader.
Yeah, Balliet, he is closing, and we even saw on that long run again, he probably was a little faster than Jennings. I feel like, though Jennings here in the clean air, he was going to be able to capitalize on it. I don't know if Jennings is still trying to get acclimated to how this car feels in the clean air, but Balliet, he is here. He's going to put on pressure on this 91 car and try to redeem himself for the win he feels he should have had at Milwaukee.
Closing in, he's put a 1/10.5 on Jennings since we've taken this on board. At the same time, could Jonathan Jennings be trying to play the long game? 120 laps, really 130. It's a long time on tires. You've got to conserve, certainly. Fuel is good for what, 170? And we're not going 170, thankfully, but anywhere in that number, anywhere in the triple digits on a set of tires is a lot to ask of 4 Goodyear Eagles. So I think this could be a ploy by Jennings to maybe save. Hopefully Balliet doesn't have to pit. I think if you pit here, you lose.
Certainly, I think the opportunity to go the rest of this race is there. And I mean, if you're going to pit, you're going to have to split the rest of the race in half. And I mean, we're looking at then from 113, where they restarted. That's going to be 130 laps. You're going to pit about 70 laps to go if you're going to pit in this stint to split it in half. And we already saw Balliet. He was gonna he came at lap 84 in the first stint, but with that he was able to get back onto lead lap because Max pitted, and he didn't have to go through the whole wave around process. So here he is now trying to capitalize on staying on lead lap in that regard. I don't know if he'll still go for it, and he's diving to the inside here.
A little bit of contact, maybe. Balliet fights to the inside of Jonathan Jennings. And I feel like the one driver that anybody that is not in the playoffs can actually go a bit gloves off with is probably Jonathan Jennings. Maybe even Scott Bailey. Both of them are currently locked in to the final round of the playoffs next week, or in 2 weeks rather, at Richmond Raceway. So if anybody is going to get physical, I guess if you're going to get physical with anybody in the playoffs, the 91 car is one of the two that you can. So here, Malenko is taking a shot.
Well, we already seen Jennings get physical with his teammate. So I feel like if you saw that and Balliet was there,
behind these guys, Fitzpatrick up the racetrack in contact with Max Service for third. How does he react?
Physical. My goodness, we'll have to see how that contact came about. But now he's in a battle with Schumacher, trying to save his race. All the while, the battle for lead continues on. And here we go. Schumacher nearly into the side of the 2.
That's going to open the door as well for Cortez, which would only further help Swift Racing if he's able to go on by. That would be for 5th on the 2 car if he can get there. Schumacher pedals back a little bit, trying to take this spot away. The battle up front quieting down for the moment. It's like Malenko knows we're trying to make TV out of this thing, and he backs off. Finally, Fitzpatrick loses that spot.
I told him that as well. Make it a show.
There you go. Now, Cortez looks to the inside, and here we go. There's the 22 car as well of Jacob Reeves. I'm not saying anything's going to happen, but it is a short track. We've seen it before. Very close, and yes, Reeves is there. Yep, he turns Cortez. Payback.
And there's the yellow. Oh, my goodness.
We are short track racing.
We are short track racing. And Adam, he runs this league a little more laid back. But you know, if this starts to become a thing, you know, this is still a playoff race. He's gonna step in here if they start causing a couple more incidents here.
For a moment, Vinny went on by the 11 car. I thought maybe he was going to go add to the conversation. Oh, we have a few things to go back and look at. Let's try and get back first to the the max service contact with Fitzpatrick, and here it is.
Looks like he had to run. Oh man,
Max just got in deep. I mean, he just got into him.
late dive. It kind of looked like Fitzpatrick was leaving like half a lane, but Max was taking it. And Max, I certainly understand if he's frustrated of how his race has gone, from dominating to having to work his way back to the field. And then here's Reeves closing that gap. We saw up ahead Schumacher almost getting in Cuba side of the 2 car, and all that battling brings Reeves closer to that 23.
We're going to skip ahead in this a little bit.
And as an admin of this league as well, I'm not going to say, you know, that I agree that we should, you know, be taking cars out. But I understand the frustration 1,000% on Jacob Reeves. That's his season that was just ended.
Yeah, for the drama factor, certainly, I would 100% see and understand why Jacob Reeves kind of lifted off the brake. And I think that's all it was he just kind of lifted off the brake there and let Jesus take care of the rest. Here's one more look at it, listed on board. I think he just lifted off the brake for a half second and then throttled up once they were already making contact. But payback is payback. That's definitely... He had the time to not hit the 23 if he wanted to. Or at least so I believe. But contact is made. The 23 goes around. And that is that. But there definitely is not really a place for motor racing to have intentional crashing. Thankfully, that wasn't a crash. Vinny kept it off the fence. But there really isn't a place for that in motor racing. As exciting as it is definitely to be frowned upon. That said, I think that equally the move into turn 3 laps ago from Vinny Cortez is equally frowned upon.
Absolutely. I was a little scared with that incident because they were right behind Seth Fitzpatrick, and I was scared that Reeves was going to drive through Cortez, and Cortez might have driven through the 2. So I guess in that regard, I'm kind of glad how it worked out that Fitzpatrick wasn't affected, and only those 2 kind of went on. They spun out. They got their EOLs, and we race on.
Here we go. 99 laps to go at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Jeremiah Stutzman. There we go. He takes no tires, stays out. He is on, I think, 2 tires from the previous stop. This is going to be fun. Service, a bit of lockup there on the outside of 3, and Stutzman quickly falling back. He's going to be in the way of some of these guys.
Yeah, but let's also remember Stutzman, this is kind of his Hail Mary, right? You don't know how many more cautions you're going to get in this race. He had to try something. His race was not going well.
Lead change.
Yep, here we go. Balliet to the inside of Jennings. Looks like much easier than before, except Jennings still fights back.
This battle is far from over between these 2 for the race lead. Balliet, though, taking the race lead for now, and Jennings a little sideways in the rear to the 3rd quarter. He opens the door for Service on the inside.
Service to the inside, trying to reclaim this race that he very much had in control before he made his pit stop at around the lap 90 mark.
Service now falls in line. Fitzpatrick there behind the 81. And it's Schumacher in 5th. Bailey back here to side-by-side with Seth Berger. Berger, by the way, is a lap down, and I'm not really sure how that happened.
I don't know. Maybe
I'd imagine
under that
pit
caution.
Road. Yeah.
I was going to say, under that caution, might have taken some extensive damage repair. maybe he was too hurt that he said he'd rather lose the lap.
Bailey gets the fence hard that time out of turn 4. That's to give the spot up to Vincent Cortez. And Jacob Reeves there, it looks like, has gotten his fill of the back bumper of the 23 car, and now we're just racing.
They were both EOL, so if something else was going to happen there, it would have happened. But they race on. Service trying to get there to the inside of 91. And he doesn't need this to advance to the championship 4. Round goes Kevin Powell. But I'm sure he feels he needs it to make a statement.
Powell gets back going, no issue. That'll be an easier spot now for Seth Berger to potentially grab for 9th. Back out to Max Service, though, you're right. He doesn't need this, but it would certainly help.
Jennings is struggling all over the place. There goes the door, open for service.
Max tries that time. Jonathan cuts the racetrack down a little bit now, finally. Has to give up that second position. I'm not sure what's wrong right now for the 91 car. He must have made an adjustment, and it has definitely swung that car the wrong way.
Yeah, this is Jennings struggling. I've never seen him struggle this much for grip, especially when earlier in the same race he looked very much in control. So I don't know if maybe Jennings might have made a move to make this car better in clean air, and now he's in dirty air and now he's struggling. But it's not looking good for the 91. I mean, he's in, but for the race's perspective, it's not looking good.
What opens things back up, there we go, as Balliette's now your leader, so it's a spoiler win, if you will. That means nobody gets locked in by virtue of the race win. That means Max Service is still in on points. Berger would be in on points. So anybody other than one of the bottom 4 winning is good for Berger. It means he's still in this. But Fitzpatrick, on the other hand, really needs to get up there and I think race with these 2 spots directly in front of him. He has got to get up to Max Service and, of course, then Joshua Balliette. He has got to get going now. He has the window back open. Early in the race, his teammate went by. That was Jonathan Jennings. Now he's back by Jonathan Jennings. This is the opportunity that he has got to seize if he wants to race for a championship next week.
Absolutely. And the car up ahead, Max arguably made a very aggressive move that, that could have, the contact they made could have been avoided. The Fitzpatrick maybe, when he gets to him, if he does get to him, maybe repay the favor to make his own life a little easier, try to then work on chasing out a 7 car. Max, might have to think about how that move affects him later in this race.
Yeah, I think it's in the same vein as Vinny's dive into 3, just less damage as a result. Thankfully, a lot less happened to Fitzpatrick than happened to Reeves, but both were pretty aggressive lunges. There was no overlap in either one. Or actually, I think there was more overlap from Vinny on Reeves. There was no overlap from Max Service on Fitzpatrick. He just thought maybe there was a window, and there wasn't. That door closed very, very quickly. Door, window, whatever you want to call it. And I don't think there was really even one there. Again, there was no overlap. He came from at least a half car length or so back as, Seth actually gets the fence a little bit. But I think definitely if you're Seth Fitzpatrick, that's a bump in the road, and you've got to make that bump as small as you can. And I say you got to make the bump as small as you can, maybe make the bump as hard as you can at a Max Service from his perspective to try and get by. Obviously, don't crash the guy. We've seen that already. But I think definitely you use the bumper to get back by.
Absolutely. It looks like Fitzpatrick has gained a little bit on Service, and Service was gaining on Balliette. That looks like it stalled out slightly as well. So maybe they're just both gaining.
Such is short track racing. That is exactly how it goes. This is a view a little further back. Initially, I thought this was a battle for position, then I realized Seth Berger is 1 lap down, but he is in front here of Vincent Cortez and behind Adrian Schumacher. Still cars in close proximity to one another. And they're starting to close in on Jonathan Jennings. Honestly, Schumacher could get there and get by the 91.
Yeah, and Schumacher's still in this. If he gets himself into position, and he's still very much, he's only 3 seconds back of Balliette. I know that's a lot at North Wilkesboro, and there's a lot of cars between himself and Balliet, but he's still very much alive in this race.
Just riding on board here with Adrian Schumacher, watching everything happen out in front. Kevin Powell, Jeremiah Stutzman are battling. This is kind of interesting, actually, considering Powell spun and Jeremiah is on older tires. The fact that that is equalized and Powell takes that spot away for the 8th position is rather intriguing, at least to me. Meanwhile, Balliet closes in to lap both of them.
And Balliet, he looks like he's in firm control of this race for the moment. It doesn't look like there's any pit stops either, so it's going to come down to who saves tires better up here. We saw Balliet. He's still trying to get used to this NextGen car. He doesn't race on iRacing as often as he used to with the Gen 6 car, and that barely runs Cup. So this is a car that he's still trying to get used to, and we saw him struggle a little bit on the long run at Milwaukee to that man right there in Fitzpatrick. Here's Balliet opening a 1.4 second advantage.
Fitzpatrick just kind of staying equidistant to Jonathan Jennings as he was about 10 laps ago when he took this position over. Not really able to make any ground, as he's actually lost some ground to service. We're closing in. We actually just passed 75 laps to go, closing in on 50 laps to go, Emerson. While these guys ride around and just try and get more laps in here at North Wilkesboro Speedway, we're going to go Pit Stop TV side by side, and we'll be back shortly with more racing from Wilkes County.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence. Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
Welcome back to the virtual North Wilkesboro Speedway. You just saw it happen from overhead. A pass by Adrian Schumacher on Jonathan Jennings. Move the 82 into 4th position. And now move Cortez up into 5th. Jonathan Jennings. This is very much uncharacteristic of him. He drops into 6th here on a long run on a short track.
Yeah, this is the most I've seen Jonathan Jennings struggle at a short track this season. I don't think I've seen him outside of maybe a pit cycle lower than like 3rd, all things considered. And part of that is Swiss Racing brought the heat today, absolutely. In not only in drivers with Balliet coming up off the bench, but in setup that Max Service worked on for the past 2 weeks, almost every day.
In other news around the racetrack, Scott Bailey drops into 8th position as Kevin Powell goes on by, and Balliet will lap the 11 car now. Seth Berger has moved on by, and Jeremiah Stutzman as well. That is for the 9th position, and Stutzman has 50 laps to go in this race. He doesn't have to pit for fuel, but he might have to pit for tires. That car is really off pace. Granted, I don't think really there's a whole lot of life left in it as far as a win anyways. 1 lap down, soon to be 2 laps down. He needs a lot, I think, to go right for him, unfortunately. Just not a good round of 8 for Jeremiah Stutzman whatsoever.
Yeah, it started off rough at Homestead. Didn't have the greatest qualifying runs, was deep in the back of the midfield. They got loose, hit the inside wall, massive damage. Atlanta, of course, was faring very well. Caught the incident with Seth Berger. And from then on, Stutzman just had a rough outing there. Already in a hole in points, needed to win there and could never get back. And today, it's just been a rough go. I noticed Stutzman. The alternative to running a playoff banner was orange numbers on the car and maybe orange rims. He took those off coming into today's race. That is how confident he was in himself. And it is it's a long one. Here, he had that caution there at the at the 146 mark, and knowing Outlaws, that could be the last caution on the season. And he felt he had to try something there. Stayed out, did not pay off, and he's paying for it here. And this one hurts.
Props to him for trying something there, staying out on that restart. But clearly, as we get on by lap 200 and on to lap 201, it did not work out for him as we have 50 laps to go from North Wilkesboro Speedway. Once again, thanks for joining us. It has been a wild day of racing. And in this wild day of racing, 3 cautions for 17 laps, 7 lead changes. It's definitely been interesting. We've even seen some intentional payback after a couple of interesting, we'll say, moves. And interesting is certainly the operative word. A couple of big dive bombs and some inflated tempers, some warmed tempers, maybe heated tempers, as the track temp comes down a little bit to 127 degrees, but it's still hot here in Wilkes County.
Yes, it is. It's hot in the area. It's hot on the track. It's hot in the cars. There's hot heads. It's tough. This is a tough little racetrack. I struggle getting around here. Just a few test laps I did. Very much a lot of elevation change, a lot of bumps. The car, I mean, not the NextGen cars I've ever ran here before. They plan to, of course, next season with the All-Star race in real life. But at the moment, the cars really don't feel like they belong here, and it's a tough challenge. The track temp doing no favors. Tires hurt. Everything hurts at the end of 250, I'm sure.
It's not an easy race to run. 250 laps at one of the most difficult short tracks in the country. This is not an easy track at all, and it's an old track, bumpy, eats up tires a little bit. It's just difficult. It's not a track we've had on iRacing for very long, not one that these guys get a lot of experience with. It doesn't make many schedules. It's great to have on iRacing, of course. It's a great look back in history. 35, nearly 40 years ago, but it is definitely one of the tougher ones that we visit whenever it pops up on the schedule, and this season it's definitely showing that. Fitzpatrick, I think, is the driver to watch right now for the last 40-some laps here at the North Wilkesboro Speedway. He's 3 seconds behind the race lead, but if something happens out front, if we get a caution, I think he's the best shot we have right now at a long shot winner or an upset winner event or any kind of anything like that that would change up these playoff standings.
Right, and Fitzpatrick, he was kind of the one we looked at coming into today that would do it. This is actually the race I almost a complete opposite of a race I felt I'd see from Fitzpatrick. I thought I'd see him up there leading most of this race, or at least being in contention most of this race. And while he's still alive for it, it hasn't looked that way yet. It looks like something's going to have to happen for him to put himself in that position. Adrian Schumacher with a little bit of blinking behind. He's the one, at least in the first half of this race, that looked like he was going to be one of the bottom 4 drivers to win. And he's still up here as well, but he has also lost a little bit of touch. I know Max, put together a great setup, but it looks like Balliet service their class of the field and still running away with it.
Inside of 40 laps to go. I do also want to give a big shout out to this guy, Adrian Schumacher. This is very much not his kind of racetrack, and he has absolutely outperformed, I think, everybody's expectations of him. Showed up today, qualified second, and has run pretty darn good. He's even led 21 laps today, Emerson. This is outperforming, I think, what anybody really expected of Adrian, but not at all outperforming what we know he can do. We know he's a good race car driver, especially in this NASCAR NextGen vehicle. It's just a matter of actually putting things together on a short track like this. We know he's stellar on road courses, but this is different.
Absolutely. Adrian, the whole even part, he's a part of this league. It's because I met him back on console days. He wasn't even a part of the Outlaws series on the console side. Joined my F1 league. I only knew him as an F1 guy. He barely mentioned anything NASCAR. When we made the switch over to iRacing, he kind of got wind of it. He asked me, "Hey, do you know any leagues?" I said, "Well, here's this league. We're all making the transition over. Come join us." He joined us, and he was pretty much learning stock cars on the fly. He watched a little bit of NASCAR, but he didn't understand the whole tire saving aspect of it. This man, he was a hot lapper at a road course. He showed up to Road America, race 3 of season 1, showed up, dominated, won. He won at Daytona, race 9 in season 1. That was his first oval win, his only oval win in the Outlaws Sim Series. And from then on, he's just continued to grow as a driver. He made the championship for that season. Kind of got caught on pit strategy. Didn't race last season. Came back this season even stronger. Unfortunately, looks like at the moment not in position to transfer into the championship 4. But arguably, this has been a much stronger season for Adrian Schumacher. Continue to grow as an oval racer. We know he can get it done on the road courses. He's proven that several times. But he's steadily grown as an oval racer. And no!
Right as we praise him, that is big contact with the outside wall, and that looked like when you get frustrated in practice and just shove it into the fence. I think he just got loose and overcorrected a little bit. He's still making the corner, Emerson, but that is a tough way to accept that you're just not going to fight for a championship in the next 2 weeks. That is tough.
Yeah, and that's some pretty substantial damage too.
He's pulling over.
And he's pulling off. Maybe not off, but maybe he's leading Vinny by. But there's some right front damage, and he's coming in, it looks like.
Oh, man. Sliding into the pit lane. Big problems there for Adrian Schumacher. Was going to have a really solid end of the day. He's been so good. This is now his lowest position in 6th. When he gets passed for 7th, that'll be his new lowest position, so on and so forth. 30 laps to go, and unfortunately, he's parking it at least to get repairs. Cortez also in. We actually could see this be a bit of a strategy move. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know really what there is to gain unless we get a caution.
Yeah, Max Service is coming. What is going on?
I really don't understand this. With 30 laps to go, this is a bizarre strategy move. I hope they don't call Balliet in because Fitzpatrick's going to have an easy win.
I don't think Balliet wants to come in unless he doesn't have the fuel. I don't know if that's going to be the thing. I think the only reason you pull to 7 is if he can't make it on fuel. But this is something else. I don't really know what they're planning for. And I think Balliet, he feels the clean air. He wants to stay out here. If you remember to the first stint, he was the first driver on pit road. So I feel like if he was going to come in, he would have came in one of those couple laps right there. So I think Balliet feels it. He's got the gap. He's still gaining on Fitzpatrick. I don't understand, other than I think if Max feels that he's comfortably into the next round of Championship 4, this might be just a Hail Mary to try to win the race.
It's a bizarre move. Service is in the center of 1 and 2 now. Balliet, center of 3 and 4. That's 30 seconds that you have to make up, and even if you're a second a lap faster, you don't have 30 laps to go. I can't say I understand that at all. Here comes Schumacher, though, by Balliet. And it very much could have been that Service maybe underfueled the car a little bit to keep the rear end underneath him. Also could be that he just went ahead and pitted to keep the car underneath him. But he will actually go right back by Seth Berger, who had briefly moved into the 6th position. This puts Fitzpatrick second, 4 seconds behind the leader. Jennings is third, 7 seconds back. Powell is 4th, a lap down. And I think Service about 4 or 5 seconds back should get there by the end of this run.
Now, Andrew, this scenario is not that Max Service coming into the pit with 30 laps to go is, but as far as strictly the top 2, the scenario is very reminiscent to a couple months ago at Milwaukee, where Balliet kind of had control of the race, and last second, Fitzpatrick kind of closed the gap little by little and passed him with 5 laps to go, and Balliet, he could barely make the corners at the end of that race. At the moment, it still looks like he's gaining, but if there's a cliff on this tire that Balliet's about to hit in the next 20 laps, he's going to be hoping there's not a deja vu moment.
Well, there goes Service by Fitzpatrick, not for position. Bailey, by the way, is struggling now as well. He's run 81 laps on these tires, the same as the leaders. We're coming up to lap 83 of their run with 20 laps to go. Can Seth Fitzpatrick maybe make 4 seconds up on Balliet, and how physical might he get when he gets there? If he gets there, I should say. And that's a big if. 4 seconds is a lot in 20 seconds, or 20 laps.
It's starting to look like he even lost a little bit there. At the moment, still looks like advantage Balliet. But yes, I think if it's for your season, I think he's gonna. He's been poked all day by his teammate Jennings early, and Max there to center the race, and on that restart, Fitzpatrick, he's been receiving the bumps, and I think he's if he needs to make it into the Championship 4, he will dish out one.
Here's a devil's advocate a way of looking at this. When we saw our first caution of the day, it was Cortez making an aggressive move on somebody with older tires because Vincent had pitted. Do we see something similar, whether it's Vinny or anybody else? Do we see a driver with new tires make an aggressive move late on a driver or 2 or 3 drivers with old tires? That, I feel like, is the only way we get another caution, especially on this long run. And you see the 23 of Cortez working on Powell here. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Well, right now, Max Service just unlapped himself to Balliet. He pitted after Cortez. That'd be funny if he thought about that and maybe put Vinny in that spot in his mind. If he got himself back in the lead lap, obviously Balliet, Fitzpatrick, Jennings, they'd pit. Service would cycle to the lead.
Intriguing race unfolding before us. We've still got to keep all eyes here on car 2, I think. This is the most important driver to watch right now. And we can now see live, it's a 12-second gap between Fitzpatrick and Service. We have more than 12 laps to go. Max Service actually could pass Seth Fitzpatrick. In fact, Max is lapping last lap an 18.9. This last lap for Fitzpatrick was a 19.8 and a high 19.8 at that. So it's about a 9/10 difference right now. He could get there to get that second spot back.
It's plausible. It's going to be tough, especially because the tires are probably going to start to go on max. Not to the extent that the other drivers who haven't pitted, but I don't know if he's going to keep that advantage up. He's going to certainly try. I think Jennings is very much a podium is still up for grabs for Max. I think that is looking pretty good in his picture. Cortez unlaps himself, puts him to 5th.
This is the gap from Service to Jennings right now as we near 11 laps to go.
Look at that. I mean, he gained 7/10 just in the corner.
Working on Jacob Reeves, gets on by him. Next up the road is Stutzman.
If Max was going to try this, he probably had to try this 15 laps sooner.
Yeah. They waited a long time.
Right. Powers by Stutzman. Stutzman, I don't think has even come in yet. Since his strategy called to try something. His Hail Mary to make it to the championship four.
That would be correct. 139 laps.
My goodness. That entire fuel tank, those tires are going to get the entire fuel tank down there in the 71 camp. Oh, baby.
Meanwhile, 10 laps to go. Make that 9 laps to go. Fitzpatrick just not closing in. That gap has widened. 4.5 seconds.
Valiette, he is still holding this
5.
advantage. Yeah, that's wild. And to think, again, Valiette hadn't won a race since race 14 of season 1. Yes, he was race controller last season. He took on a part-time role over the course of this season, last season. Race controlled the second half of season 2 and a couple races here at the beginning of this season. From then on, very part-time schedule. The car wasn't really agreeing with him, but he wanted to kind of... Milwaukee was kind of his track that he felt. He showed up, led 175 laps, won his first 2 stages. He didn't run stages in season 1. First 2 stages in his Outlaws Sim Series career, and then with 5 laps to go, lost it then. So this is maybe a little payback, or he's trying to get a little redemption from Milwaukee, but he just also hasn't won in the Outlaws Sim Series in such a long time, and I can maybe find the date here in a little bit, but race 14 of season 1, that's almost 2 years ago at this point.
5 laps to go.
Years.
And 5 seconds the gap here. And really, there's something else happening. The closest battle on the racetrack otherwise is Berger and Bailey. And these guys really not fighting for a whole lot. Bailey's locked in. Berger will be in so long as his teammate holds on to this race win. And now 4 laps to go. Time is ticking, and not much is changing.
Service trying to get Jennings. Pretty much plan on that happening, but it's going to be close.
He's still got to get by Bailey. I don't think Bailey makes this exactly easy on Max, but he could. Even so, he's going to have 3 laps to go this time by the start-finish. That's 1.2 seconds. I don't know that he gets there.
It's going to be a tough call, a tough go at it, and I don't think Max is just going to move Jennings even to get to the back end here. But 2 laps to go, or 2 laps to go for the 3-time winner in the Outlaws Sim Series, looking for his 4th career win. Former race controller.
White flag this time, presented by Whiplash Sim Cams for Joshua Balliet. It's been a long day. It's been a long time since he's won. But from the drop of the green flag, he said, "I'm ready." And out of turns 3 and 4 this time at North Wilkesboro Speedway, Joshua Balliet is going to go to victory lane in race 35 of 36 this season for the Outlaws Sim Series. Car 7 takes a dub.
It's been 2 years since he last won the Outlaws Sim Series, and able to get it there. Service spins it out there, does not get 3rd. And Fitzpatrick will not advance, along with Stutzman, Schumacher, and Reeves, the way it stands now.
And Joshua Balliet gets to do some donuts down here in turn 1. Definitely deserving of celebration after a day like today.
Absolutely. Just saw the date here. November 11th, 2020. That's
Wow.
2 years, over 2 years now. Probably felt one he lost in September. This is gonna feel good. I'm excited to hear how feels about this one. Kind of that finally feeling, I'm sure.
See Berger celebrating as well. I think just celebrating that he is still in these playoffs and will fight for a championship in 2 weeks' time at Richmond Raceway. While Balliet burns the house down, let's go ahead and check out our race results today from Wilkesboro. Only a couple of pages here, and you can see 98 laps led for Balliet. I do believe that is the most.
It should be. Max would be pretty close. But Balliet with the win. Fitzpatrick finishes second. Jennings holds on to third, only half a second over the hard-charging fresh tires of Max Service. Vincent Cortez, after getting into Jacob Reeves and effectively ending his season, he'll still come out of the race with a top 5. Cars 1 lap down. Kevin Powell, Scott Bailey, Seth Berger, Jeremiah Stutzman, and 2 laps down, Adrian Schumacher. That's a heartbreaker there for Adrian.
Finishing 11th, you'll find Jacob Reeves in car 22 after the incident with Vinny Cortez. I think that's a decent way to finish things out. Did not lose another lap since that incident, at least since getting back on track from that incident. So at least that's a note to hang his head on for the afternoon. Justin McMahon, though, finishes 12th, 142 laps down. Adam Gardner, 157 laps down in 13th. And Devin Smith did not make the start of the race. Well, Emerson, Joshua Balliet finally is going back to victory lane in the Outlaws Sim Series. Driver 7 has got to be excited.
Absolutely dominated there. The back end of the race, led 98 laps. Phenomenal stuff. It's been 2 years since you won in the Outlaws Sim Series, and you've been race controlling and on a part-time schedule now. But how does this one feel, man?
It feels great after losing the Milwaukee race, coming here and actually having long run pace. The setup Max brought was absolutely amazing. We were practicing with it a little bit before the race. I said it was really strong in the long run, and exactly what it was. Didn't really have the short run pace compared to my teammates, but man, it hauled once we got about 20 laps in. It was just so quick. It was great to race with Jennings for that while. He was a little bit of Ryan Newman. He was so tough to pass, but it's fun overall. Good race.
Absolutely. So your 4th career Outlaw Sim Series win, and I know that feels great. You mainly came into today to kind of go at bat for your Swift Racing teammates, able to help Max and Seth get in by finishing ahead of Fitzpatrick there. How does that feel? And then throughout the race, were there any worries about that?
No, there really wasn't too much worries. Fitzpatrick was struggling pretty much the whole stint, and in the final stint, he got up to 3rd. Max said, "Screw it, pit." He's gonna pit, so he puts him up to 2nd. But I was still pulling just fine from Fitzpatrick. It really wasn't a worry most of the day.
Well, there you go. Now, 4-time race winner in the Outlaw Sim Series, first win in 2 years, and a little bit of redemption from Milwaukee. Congratulations, Mal, on the dominant their second half and brilliant drive today here at North Wilkesboro. And I don't know if you're going to show up for Richmond, but if you do, best luck to you.
I probably will, and thank you.
There you go.
There it
The
is.
driver known as Malenko takes a race win today at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Let's get the driver of the 2, Seth Fitzpatrick, who I think has reason to just be generally disappointed after the way things went. Seth, a really strong run for you. No laps led, unfortunately, and you're 1 spot shy of where you needed to finish to move on to the playoffs. How do you sum up North Wilkesboro for you today? It seems like that might be one of the loudest statements, actually, that you can make without saying a word. Is no answer there yet from Seth Fitzpatrick. Seth, do you have a copy? And Emerson, I'd have to believe that he stepped away from the rig here for a few moments. So we'll circle back around to that before we close this broadcast out. But Fitzpatrick not available for a comment yet. Let's try his teammate, Emerson. Here is Jonathan Jennings.
And we'll have driver of the number 91, Jonathan Jennings, join us up here. Third place finish, 33 laps, led Jonathan. There, though, after that last caution, looks like maybe an adjustment gone wrong. You were starting to struggle there. What happened?
Yeah, I didn't put fuel in it, so it was. I should have put fuel in it to put the weight back there, but it is what it is. I just tried to maintain a decent spot to just get myself to the next round, or the championship race anyway.
Right. So I wasn't sure, I guess, if you knew, Ven, but you did lock in just by starting today because of your points cushion over the cut line, Ven, and then over Berger. But from then on, yeah, you're into Richmond comfortably. Everyone's looking at you to have a strong run there. Did you learn anything today you can take with you to Richmond?
No. It didn't. All the practice I did, it did not. The track was totally different tonight, so I don't know. I had to work on different wheels on the setup and pick whichever one, however the track is.
All right, well, that is driver of the number 91, Jonathan Jennings, who will be competing for a championship in Richmond in a couple weeks' time. Jonathan, congratulations on the third place finish this evening. Congratulations on making it to the championship four. Best luck to you as you compete for a title.
Thank you.
And Jennings, I think, certainly has reason to just be, I think, his usual self. No real reason to be down or even overly excited. Just go in next week and execute on every level. And I do believe that is certainly the strategy there for car 91. Before we get back to second place finisher Seth Fitzpatrick, let's try Max Service, who made a little bit of contact with him earlier in the day. And Max, how do you wrap this up? I mean, you're moving on. You're battling for a championship in 2 weeks at Richmond, but it was a little bit of a bumpy road to get there.
Yeah. Had the best car. Got caught on pit road under that caution. And then coming back up to the field there, just got hooked, neck coated into the wall, whatever. And after that, the car just felt weird. There was something wrong with it. Just not good enough, just pushing into the corner. I felt like the steering was a little weird, but I'm not too sure on that. Just something was wrong with the car. It just never got back. I tried to adjust on it on, not the last pit stop for me, under that caution. Just, I didn't make enough of an adjustment to compensate for the damage. It was only 12 seconds, but it was enough to be slower than Mal was. He was really good. Congrats to him for the win. Really helped us out there winning by being able to get 2 Swift Racing cars into the Final Four. That's certainly good. But a little disappointing. Really wanted to win this race, and I felt like we had it won. And then, well, we didn't.
So Wilkesboro in the proverbial mirror. How do you focus up for Richmond to get yourself a championship?
Well, we're going to have a lot of laps ahead of us for Richmond here. There's probably about 600 laps into this setup, which is 600 too many in my opinion. But this round, I put some effort into the setups. We did like 400 at Homestead, 600 here. So we're going to have to do a lot there just to build a good setup. I love Richmond. I hate Wilkesboro. I was so shocked when I saw on the pole and led like the first 80 laps until I pitted or whatever.
93 laps led on the day. That's impressive.
Yeah, and then it all went downhill from there.
Well, you at least have good notes, I think, to take you to Richmond in a couple of weeks. Best of luck to you. Can't wait to see how things boil down for a championship.
Yeah, hopefully we can go get one. We're actually at a Final Four track that I like this time, so maybe we have a shot.
Well, there you go. Max Service always has a shot here in the Outlaws Sim Series. He's fighting for a championship in 2 weeks. Let's retry that conversation with Seth Fitzpatrick before we close things out here at Wilkesboro. And Seth, do you have a copy? Looks like no dice there for Seth Fitzpatrick, so we'll give him the time to cool down, Emerson, and that means we get to focus on Richmond. 2 weeks from now, we're fighting for a championship.
Yeah. Next week we're taking off for VI Racing Build, but all of that means is we put ourselves in the same scenario. We are heading here into North Wilkesboro. 2 weeks to prepare the best piece you can bring for 300 laps at the 3/4 mile in Virginia. It's going to be a fun one. Absolutely love Richmond. I just ran a league race there last night. Didn't have the best results, but fun track. Very, very physical track. Once you start your run, Andrew, you're in the zone because the straights are so short, and the front straight you're always turning, and the corners change so much over the course of the run. It's going to be so intriguing how these drivers build their setups heading into next week, and it's going to be a lot of fun for us.
Well, in the meantime, here's some upcoming broadcasts here on Pit Stop TV. Tomorrow, we kick off a new era of GT3 racing with the North American Racing League, and fittingly enough, Emerson, that will be the final time that we ever see the GT3 cars on Pit Stop TV as they currently are, because there is a huge update coming to that platform of racing car with that iRacing build that you just talked about. And it is changing those cars forever, changing the way they drive, changing the way they handle, interact with the track, and of course changing the way the tires handle and interact with the track, take heat, wear out, and so much more, and making them much more interactive with tire wear and how the tracks themselves wear each tire. And each track is going to have more realistic, more appropriate tire wear compared to one another. So some tracks will wear tires faster, some tracks will wear tires a little bit more slowly and more forgivingly. So this is the last race that we have this kind of GT3 racing, and then things are changing big time for VIR the week after, and even VIR, Virginia International Raceway, is getting a big change, but we'll get to that when the time is right. Sunday, we have a doubleheader once again, and it's a championship doubleheader from the country of Japan. Suzuka Racing Circuit, first up at 11:40 a.m. Eastern with the Formula League Formula 3 Series, and then the Sim Pit Road Racing Series with their GTE cars from Fuji Speedway. Two fantastic racetracks showcased on Sunday afternoon.
Absolutely. Fantastic tracks. One of my personal favorites in the nation of Road America. Tomorrow night with the North American Race League season opener tomorrow. Can't wait to be back on the job for that one. 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. And of course, Sunday with our doubleheader there. Can't wait for Suzuka and Fuji. Fuji new to the service. And seeing the sports cars tackle is going to be quite the challenge there. Haven't seen that since the Gran Turismo days way back in the day. But yeah, you can keep up with all of these leagues and the updates we have about them on our social media platforms, our Facebook page at facebook.com/pitstoptv, our Instagram at pit_stop_TV, our Twitter at pitstoptv_. We were live on Twitch this evening at twitch.tv/pit_stop_TV, and of course our YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. If you're watching this from any of the Outlaws pages, go ahead and give us a follow, a like, or whatever you may be on that same platform. That'd be greatly appreciated.
It's worth mentioning as well that we will have the Elite Performance Industries Speed Week beginning next Monday, and I guess this coming Monday actually, December the 5th, that will run through Sunday, December 11th. 7 straight nights of racing from short tracks in the state of Florida. We've got Five Flags Speedway and Volusia Speedway Park, two fantastic racetracks. We're changing cars each day. The first night will be Five Flags with Mazda Miatas, the Global MX-5 Cup car, and Street Stocks. Yes, Miatas and Street Stocks. 2 different races on Monday night from Five Flags, and then Tuesday we'll have dirt racing kicking off from Volusia with Dirt Legends and Dirt Midgets. So a great night of racing to begin each of those, just that whole stretch, and of course we'll have different cars throughout the week. We'll talk more about that when the time is right, but that is it from North Wilkesboro Speedway. A big thank you to our partners here at Pit Stop TV, of course, Whiplash Media SimCams, SimRepMarket.com, and Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine. Congratulations to Max Service taking the Pratt & Tile Stone Award, Pole Award, and congratulations, of course, to Joshua Elliott for the race win. Emerson, thanks for joining me on the call today. It's been a lot of fun, as always, and we are very much looking forward to Richmond in 2 weeks' time. Hopefully you can join us for that broadcast, and hopefully you can join us for any of the broadcasts coming up in between. On the way out, enjoy this bit of B-roll from a bit of a mix of what North Wilkesboro looked like about a year or so ago and what it looks like in the sim. Otherwise, have a great night. We'll see you at the next Pit Stop TV broadcast, and we cannot wait to see you there.